FNCS Grand Finals just wrapped up, and we now know every single team competing in the FNCS Global Championship later this year. And in this video, I'm going to recap the insane weekend we just had and go over who won on both EU and NA, and also go over every single team that is now qualified to the LAN. It was a super fun weekend that was super close and super hectic as well. And to start it all off, let's talk about EU. And the team that won EU was Vico and Flixie with a super impressive performance, putting up over 850 points and just getting the win over Chapentini in second place, who only finished 11 points behind them and actually won the last game to make the leaderboard look this close. And throughout the weekend on EU, it was really just Vico and Flixie, Chapentini, and kinda Swizzy and Vanya who were really competing for the FNCS win. And also Murstache and Malabuka were also there. But I remember going into the weekend, I said Vico, Chap, and Swizzy would be the three teams that would be competing for the win. And then everyone else on EU is really just trying to make the LAN, and that's all they can do. There's really no chance of winning with Vico and Chap in the lobby. But also to see Chapentini get second place in back-to-back seasons is pretty cool. As if you guys don't remember, this is only Chap's second FNCS, so his first two FNCSs of his career are both second places. So quite the start to a career. You can't really ask for a better start. But huge shout out to Flixie and Vico, who this season have won FNCS Grand Finals, won 3 different Cash Cups, got a 3rd place in a Cash Cup and a 5th place in a Cash Cup, and have also won a performance eval. So this is definitely one of the all-time dominant seasons on EU, and maybe just in general for sure. You could definitely argue that this could be just as impressive as Peterbot's win last season, but I still think Peterbot's win's a little bit better. But Vico and Flixie definitely popped off this season. And it's crazy that both of these players just won their first FNCS ever. And heading into the season, a lot of people were actually drawing comparisons from this duo and to the Peterbot and Pollo duo, as they are pretty similar. It's two pretty good fighters making up a duo. And this could honestly be the new meta going forward with duos, two very, very good fighters, pairing up, maybe finding a coach if they don't really have an IGL, and just trying to stick it out and try to turn into one of these two duos, because clearly this is the best possible duo you could make. But moving on EU, these are the 10 teams that qualified to the FNCS Global Championship this season. We got Vico and Flixie, CZB and Nathan, Ping and Walks, Yanis and Pixie, Sky and Scroll, Turtle and Cheeps, Prism and Kasparinovic, Trulex and Chicho, Huddy and Kovacs, and G-Ross and Chari. So these are the 10 teams that will be going to LAN on EU. And stay tuned for later in the video. I'm going to go over every single team that made the LAN in general on every single region. But back to looking at the EU leaderboard, we actually had 2 of the bigger name teams struggle in FNCS Grand Finals. Queasy and Thomas HD got 35th, and Seti and Cammy got 48th. After having an absolutely terrible weekend off spawn. And now both of these teams are already qualified to the FNCS Global Championships, so they didn't have to worry about that in this Grands. But you really hate to see these two teams place this poorly, especially knowing these are 2 of the better teams in the world. But Seti and Cammy getting dominated off spawn this weekend could have some pretty harsh implications for LAN, as they might just get contested now by a pretty decent team because of how weak they look off spawn. So they've got a lot to fix before we head into the LAN. But now let's turn our focus over to NA. And Peterbot and Pollo on NA win back-to-back FNCS championships, getting first place on 839 points. Peterbot and Pollo headed into day 2, second place behind Clicks and Vino. And I knew going into day 2, Peterbot and Pollo were just going to be too much with that 2-day format and that 1.5 times points multiplier. And they played super well on day 2 and ended up getting the win. And Peterbot and Pollo become the first team on either EU and NA to win back-to-back duo FNCSs. And this FNCS win gets Peter his 3rd FNCS win and Pollo his 2nd FNCS win. And I'm not going to lie, if Peter performs at LAN, he is going to be absolutely flying up the all-time rankings to me. But moving on, Batman Booga and Rapid got second place with just 11 games, as they didn't get into game 2 of FNCS. So I wish we could have saw them get into that game and maybe have a potential chance at winning the whole FNCS. But nonetheless, Batman Booga and Rapid placed second, proving all the people that said they were going to place bad wrong, and once again showing why they were one of the best teams on NA this season. Then we have Acorn and Cold in 3rd place, who were actually contested all of day 1. Then on day 2, the team contesting them didn't even play a single match for some reason. And Acorn and Cold used this to their advantage and absolutely popped off on day 2. And almost brought it all the way back to win FNCS. But sadly fall a little bit short and finish 3rd. But nonetheless, a super solid performance out of Acorn and Cold to finish top 3. Acorn and Cold are always popping off on day 2. And once again, this season popped off again. And I believe if they were uncon both days, they would have easily won this FNCS Grand Finals. because Uncon on day 2, they popped off, and you can only imagine on day 1 if they were Uncon, they would have popped off as well. Then we have the big story, Clix and Vino finishing 4th. They were in 1st place going into day 2, but Clix and Vino had a bunch of different crazy things happening and a bunch of drama surrounding them all weekend long. On day 1, they got their vending machine shot out by Zypha and Shore, and Clix and Vino were placing the blame on Booga, saying Booga sent his friends to grief them. Then on day 2, there was another team trying to grief Clix and Vino by shooting out their vending machine early on game 1, and also landing on them on game 2. So it sucks to see this is how Clix and Vino's FNCS went, with a lot of griefing going on, but Clix and Vino played super well, and a lot of people are probably going to say this was Clix's best chance to win, and I also believe that as well. They were in 1st place 9 games into the tournament and ended up placing 4th, which sucks, but nonetheless, they played super well. They tied for the most eliminations. Vino played very well, but sadly, they just get 4th place. But nonetheless, it was a super good performance from Clix and Vino, and I don't think they should be upset about this. I think they played really well, especially for their circumstances that they had all weekend long. Now looking at the 10 and A teams that qualified to the FNCS Global Championship, we have Batman, Booga, and Rapid, Clix and Vino, Trashy and Threats, Dukes and Sphinx, Aviv and Booga, Bryce and Bolts, Victor V and Paper, Muzz and Epic Will, Shadow and Virgo, and Baka and Pars. Now taking a look at a couple of the notable teams that did not make the FNCS Global Championship on an A, we have Tayson and Niamzo, who sadly finished 15th yet again for Tayson. Tayson really just can't escape this number, and sadly this time it means he won't be qualifying to the FNCS Global Championship. And also sadly joining him, we are not going to be having Mongrel and Mr. Savage at the LAN either. Mongrel and Mr. Savage just took way too long to get going and really only played 2 end games the whole entire weekend, which sucks. And I didn't really expect this out of Mongrel and Mr. Savage, but their drop spot was an absolute mess on day 1. And they just really couldn't get anything going all weekend long. And then also, we will not be having one of the FNCS Global Champions at LAN. Mero did not qualify to LAN either this season. Him and Pink just didn't play good at all. And to be honest, I kind of feared for this going into the weekend, but I still had some faith in them. But going into the season, I knew this team was either going to play really well or play really bad. And they sadly chose the really bad part. And then lastly, we have Alex and Worthy in 38th place in their first NA FNCS Grand Finals. And this is a bit of a weird placement to me, as Alex and Worthy were fully uncontested mid-map at the restored reels, and I would have just never expected this placement from them at that drop spot uncontested in Grands. But at the end of the day, this was one of the hardest FNCS Grand Final lobbies of all time, super stacked with some of the greatest players you could ever think of. And knowing we're not going to have all-time greats and all-time LAN greats at the FNCS Global Championship, like Mr. Savage, Mero, and Tayson, that's definitely going to kind of suck, but at the end of the day, a lot of good teams still qualified. And now taking a look at all 100 players that made the FNCS Global Championship, this picture shows you every single team that qualified from every single season. The blue means they qualified from Chapter 5 Season 1, the red means they qualified from Chapter 5 Season 2, and the yellow means they qualified from Chapter 5 Season 3. And once again, the breakdown for teams in Chapter 5 Season 3 were 10 EU, 10 NA, and then we had 3 Brazil, 3 Asia, 3 Middle East, and 2 OCE teams all qualify as well. And in total, 45 of these 100 players played in the FNCS Global Championship Finals last season. Not even just the LAN itself. If it was just the LAN itself, this would be well over 50. And it's crazy regardless that 45 of these players are repeats from last season's FNCS Global Championship Finals. Now, if you guys want to join my Discord, there will be lots of information about the FNCS Global Championship in there, as I will be doing some stats for it. And also, you can find links to every single FNCS winner and other cool stats like that. So make sure to join my Discord if you guys want to see any of that, like this list of every single team qualified to the FNCS Global Championship. And also, if you guys happen to be new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss out on an upload just like this one. And also like this video if you did enjoy it so more people can see it as well. It was a super fun weekend, and if you stopped by the streams, thank you so much for all the support all weekend. This was without a doubt the best season for me so far, and we have so much more building to do, which is exciting. Now that's going to be it for me in this video, going over the FNCS Grand Finals this weekend, and also going over every single team that is now qualified to the FNCS Global Championship. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.